Devil May Cry has been one of the top echelon in regards to action games. And it really didn't have very good competition against it for quite a while until Bayonetta showed up, where I think through my time of playing both franchises, playing both games, obviously Bayonetta has came out later than Devil May Cry has, but I really think Bayonetta is the better action game. Until Devil May Cry 5. I think Devil May Cry 5 has stepped it up in every way possible, and it is now, I think, the best action game that you can get. Welcome to my review of Devil May Cry 5. For all my reviews, they will be spoiler free, and not to worry if you want to talk spoilers. There will be an additional video to this one called Spoiler Talk that is actually out right now. With the release of Devil May Cry 5, I wanted to make sure I got all the content out there right away, so you can watch this review and then check out my Spoiler Talk, which I'll leave in the video description below, so you can check it out. That is where we can talk about anything and everything for Devil May Cry 5. So if you are going to leave comments below, please do leave them spoiler free, because there is plenty to talk about. Now, the story takes place after Devil May Cry 4, and it's a very simple story. There's a new bad guy. You have Nero, Dante, and now a new character, V, who must stop this big bad guy. The one thing, it's simple, and at the same time, when I got through the entire story without spoiling anything, it felt like Devil May Cry 3 again, which is not a bad thing, but it's not a good thing either. You know, this is one of the parts of the game that isn't the best part. And I think it just lacked some complexity in a lot of the characters. You know, some of the characters do have some good character moments and some things where we really get to see more about some of these characters, but there's just so many characters in the Devil May Cry series, and because this game has been gone for quite a while, they brought everyone back plus a new character and another new character that there's not enough screen time for everyone, and so people obviously get left out. And some of the characters are just more of window dressing rather than actual complex characters, where usually in the Devil May Cry series, it's about 2 to 3 characters that really they focus on, that they can develop a little bit more. Now, Devil May Cry is not known for amazing storytelling, but they do have really good stories that they do tell. And I just think it seemed like a repeat of Devil May Cry 3, a similar formula of what we've seen before, which is not a bad thing, but again, it would have been cool if they had something more different. But to be honest, the rest of the game completely makes up for the simplicity of the story. And again, there are moments that are genuine surprises that are definitely enjoyable for anyone in the series. Now, the style for this game is quite stunning. It's thrilling, amazing, and fun. It's just got this attitude to it, and it hasn't lost its mojo. You know, Devil May Cry has a type of feel to it where it's fun, and the way the dialogue is it doesn't make sense in normal society if people talk this way, but in Devil May Cry 5, it makes total sense. In the Devil May Cry series, it makes total sense of talking in this manner. It just works so well with all the characters, and it's just constantly in awe of moments. The choreography is amazing. The opening credits for this game is amazing, and it's just so unique. And you know, it kind of adds to it with the music. The music adds to the tone of this amazing game, and it shows right at the beginning of the credits what is going to be in store for you in this game, and it's all fun, exciting action. That's what you're looking forward to when you do this game. And it just feels over the top, and it really complements the craziness and the chaoticness and the stylisticness of the combat that you get to play. Now, something I noticed was, you know, obviously it's amazing, it's stunning and fun and exciting, but the visuals are really good in this game. You know, I talked about it in my trailer reaction of I thought these visuals are really, really good, and I was like, this is really great. Why is this looks really, the gore looks amazing. I was like, why does this all look so good? And then I noticed on the back of the box when I was just like checking out the case for a little bit, I was like, oh doy, it's the RE engine. I just did a review for Resident Evil 2 and talking about how the gore is amazing and how the lighting is so well done. And this Devil May Cry uses the engine so well that it works with all the lighting and all the gore. And it's like the perfect game to use this engine for. It's just how ironic that Capcom has two franchises that are such gore heavy that it just can use this system and it works so well and looks so beautiful at the same time. Now, the only thing I would have to say about this engine is, in Resident Evil 2, it was really dark. Like, there's just dark textures. And it's a similar thing here with Devil May Cry. There are moments, though, when it's not dark and it's just light out and the game still looks so stunning. And I really wished, it's not a knock on the game because it still looks amazing and it plays phenomenal. But, I just really would like to see this engine used in daylight more. And it just would add more contrast to the colors and what you're visually looking at. I think that would have been a really cool way. And I liked that they did it for a certain part of the game. Near the end, it's a little bit brighter in the color scheme and there's more light in the game compared to heavy darkness. And I just I like that. I wish there was more uses of lighting and days and nights. And I would love to see a day and night cycle in this engine. I think it'll look stunning. It would really look stunning. Now, in this game, you are going to be using 3 different characters. And they're all unique and they're all fun in their own way. First, you have V. V is a new character that they are introducing into the franchise. He's a very different compared to the other two. I know I said they're all unique. There's a slight difference in Dante and Nero that makes a huge difference in their gameplay, but this one's a complete difference in gameplay. Instead of being all front and personal with your opponents and fighting, V is a very separated person. And so he is actually in the background commanding his own demons to fight for him. He has a panther, he has a crow, and he has this giant golem demon that he summons in his special. And so he's very ranged, and so he cannot fight himself, but he does have to finish off the opponents, which allows him to get up and personal. But it just is really interesting to see the change of strategy, and it changes up the pace and changes up the gameplay, which really does the game justice. It really does it really well because you can only do the high action for so long. So to add action but be more in the background and be strategic is great. And not only that, they did an excellent job of relating it to the regular combat. And what I mean by that is, you have your heavy attacks as a certain button. You have your ranged gunplay as a certain button. And that the same buttons is for those demons to activate those kinds of attacks. So it's familiar still to you. It's not a complete overhaul of how you learn the combat. And it's not hindering or stopping your development within this combat system because it's still utilizing the same system. You're just thinking strategically different in regards to how you take out your opponents. And I really like V. I like V as a character. He's super cool. The cane. Usually I'm not cool with canes, but man, he makes canes look like the coolest thing in the world. If canes were cool, he's the poster child of cool canes. And I would say he's probably the easiest character to use overall and the easiest one to conquer with. But that's not a knock on him. It's a really fun way to change up the gameplay, like I said before. And then you have Dante. Dante you play as well, and he takes all his stuff from the last game and from the last games and really just adds more elements. So in Devil May Cry 3, he had stances. This is back again. He does have the stances, so he has the swordman, I believe it's the royal guard stance, the gunslinger, and then the jokes trickster. And I personally like the trickster myself. I like moving around in that style, but you have all those, plus you have new weapons and skills that he gets that he can use, and so it's all about trying out new things, having a lot of fun with it, experimentation. It's all about doing that kind of thing, and you just have a blast changing through each of the different kinds of stances he has, and it just opens so many options for you that there's never one way you can use Dante, which is really nice. And I think that's the same for all three of these characters. But he just has so many different stances, and he can be super close up and personal with a sword or with a kickboxing method. He can do that too. Or he can be a little bit more ranged with his weapons. So it's just really I like his style. I like that they kept a lot of his stuff, and then they just add new weapons, which kind of changes up how you utilize him, which is really cool. Now for Nero is a little bit more simplified in the elements of gunplay and swordplay. But what Nero changes up, which makes him very unique and different, which I think is probably the best element of this game, is the Devil Breaker. Now the Devil Breaker, he loses his arm in the very beginning of the game from the Big Bad. The Big Bad took his arm, and that's how he kind of gets introed into this game. Because he's going after him to get his arm back. And so what they have done is they've taken and given him mechanical arms, but they each are different, and they can use, and they basically have special abilities. So they can be stat boosters for your weapons, for your gun and your sword. They can be something as slowing down time. They can do something as being a rocket on your arm, and each can be used very differently. Now with that, there is a risk. When you use it and you get hit, it breaks. And so you can only have so many in your inventory at the same time. And the other part that adds a little bit of strategy, which I really like, is that you have to preset your setup, and then you cannot change which Devil Breaker you use. You have to destroy a Devil Breaker to get to the next one. So say you found one on the ground on the map, you would have to destroy the current one you're using if you're full on Devil Breakers in your slots. If you have too many, you have to break the current one to get the new one. And so it makes you think about how to tackle strategic wise in regards to the map and and what you might run into enemy wise, or which ones you find most helpful to you. I found one that I liked the most out of all of them, and I constantly was using it. I was trying the new ones, of course, but there was just one that always felt like home to me, that I always liked over the rest of them. And I think overall the combat itself encourages experimentation, being experimental with the combat, which is so much fun because it's exciting, because not only you have all these elements, you learn new moves. All three characters can learn new moves that add complexity to their combat, which encourages more experimentation to be able to use new moves and combine and create combos, because that's what all the combat is about making combos. And it can be quite intimidating for people that aren't used to this style in regards to making combos. But I have to say, it allows experimenting allows for such amazing moments that makes you have so much fun with this combat system. There are moments where you are so rewarded with amazing moments that you're like, wow, I never knew I could do this before. And all of a sudden then you start using it within your combos, and then you start conquering your enemies. And you get rewarded so well with A and S rankings. It goes from D to triple S in regards to ranking of how well you've conquered that battle. And you constantly you get rewarded if once you start getting good pretty easily at this combat system. And I think what also rewards it is the difficulty. The difficulty is not that hard, even in its toughest difficulty setting. And I think that is a great compliment, because it allows for you to do that more experimenting throughout the game. And you get new devil triggers, you get new upgrades as you go throughout the, I'm sorry, not devil triggers, devil breakers throughout the game. And so, it's a great way to just keep experimenting with the system and not having to feel like, okay, it's starting to get really tough, so I need to hunker down and focus only on these combos. It's throughout the entire game, you get introduced to new enemies, but at the same time, you're introduced into new elements that help you conquer those enemies. And I think that's amazingly great. And I'm not amazing at these kinds of games, and I was constantly getting A and S rankings throughout my entire part of the game. There's only a couple times I did like a B or a C, and that's just because it was either a boss battle or something like that, and I'm not too good with doing combos and boss battles. I'm more of a pattern reading kind of person myself, but it worked out really great in that aspect. And so throughout this entire 12 hours that I played this game, it's 20 missions, 12 hours, it feels just as good when I was playing it the first hour than when I was playing it in my last hour. The combat was just never got boring and never got old. I have finished the game, but I would not be surprised if I went back to play a little bit more because I was having so much fun with the combat system, and maybe try to do it with all my upgrades already there and try to upgrade more to get more things. It was that much enjoyable and fun. And again, like, I had my story issues, but this combat is so fun and exciting that it makes up tenfold for the issues I was running with the story that I personally had. Now, also with having the fun and going through and getting the good rankings with the experimenting. The final thing about the experimenting, the more you experiment, the higher ranking you're going to get, because the more different kind of combinations you use, either weapons, swords, devil breakers, grips, pulls, dodges, everything that you combine together, the more you do that, the more stylish points you get, which gives you higher rankings. So it encourages that experimentation. That's exactly what it does, and it does it so excellently well. Now, with that, because you're getting those high rankings, you're getting a lot of orbs, and that's kind of the currency in the game. Red orbs is currency, and you never feel like you have too few or too much. I felt like I was buying good amount of upgrades, and to be able to feel like I was constantly powerful enough to conquer challenges before me in the game. Now, I'm obviously not great at this style of game, so I emphasized more on, in the beginning, buying a lot of health so I could learn the combat system. If you're not good at action games like this, I encourage you do so. It helps to kind of just allow you to experiment more and allow to try to experiment and take more damage while trying to experiment. But I mean, you were able to buy good upgrades, and every time when I was buying upgrades, I looked forward to trying them out every single time. Now, just like, action games in general, traversal is always an issue. It's always its downfall, and this is no different. I appreciate that they at least tried to remedy that with certain elements in the game. Nero specifically can send his devil breaker to be like a gripper that can shoot out and grab something, and they use that to work with the traversal, which I appreciated. That helped a bit. But moments where you needed to jump on something or traverse that way without kind of that extra assistance, because of the way the structure of their controls, because it's an action game, really struggled a bit in some sections where it was more frustrating than it should have been. And I think that if that's something, action games in general need to address this, but to get to the next level, they need to address this issue in some way. Other games have done that. They need to address this issue in some way. Now, there are two things I do have to talk about. One of them is they're both negatives on this game. One of them is a bigger negative than the other. I just want to let you know, first off, the game did crash on me once, and I do want to just explain, because I'm giving you my experience, and not everyone gets crashes, but this is my experience, so I have to share it with you. I just want to be honest. So it did crash with me. I forgot to set the settings I play on PS4, and I forgot to set the settings to have subtitles, just because they said a word and I really didn't understand it. So in the middle of the cutscene in the beginning, I exited the game because it wouldn't let me pause or go to a menu and put on subtitles. So I canceled the game and I closed the application. I tried to go back in and it just would not let me on. So I had to restart my PlayStation to go back into the game, then to change the settings, and then I was able to, I think I only lost about 4 minutes of my playthrough, which wasn't too bad. That was one issue I ran into. The other one, this one's a bigger issue for me that I don't understand why they did this, and I think this is a great discussion to have, is So there's a moment near the end of the game I talked about having enough orbs to be able to purchase things. Well, I spent a lot of orbs near the end, especially when I was getting to the final boss, the final boss. I was like chapter 19 and 20. So at chapter 19, I bought a bunch of gold orbs, which can give you life when you die. And I basically spent all my red orbs to be able to purchase upgrades and then purchase those orbs to go into this final fight. And so when I got into the final fight, I ended up losing. And I used all the orbs. I wasn't patient. It's like every boss fight. You kind of have to learn it a little bit. It's not always an instant win for you. You have to try at it. And so what happens is when you die, it leads you to a screen where it says, do you want to spend red orbs to revive, or do you want to give your gold orb to revive? And you can choose of either of those options, and then the bottom is give up. So I used all my stuff and I ran out. So unfortunately, all I had left was I didn't have red orbs and I didn't have any gold orbs to use to be able to revive myself. So I had to quit. So once you quit, it takes you to another menu that will say, do you want to retry at your checkpoint, or do you want to retry the mission? And there were two kind of small things there were two things that were frustrating. One, when I chose to retry, because the whole mission itself is the final battle, when I hit retry, I expected to have my gold orbs to come back to me, and I expected to have all those gold orbs back to be able to tackle the boss, learn the boss a little bit more, and use the gold orbs to revive myself, because I'm retrying from when I was from basically the point I started when I had 3 gold orbs. I was retrying it because I failed that time, and you don't have any of your orbs. No, I didn't have any of my gold orbs. I was like a one and done thing. I lost them. And then I didn't have any red orbs. So I was basically trying to battle it without either. And so when I died every single time, because I had no gold orbs and I had no red orbs, it kept sending me to that menu to say, do you want to revive using gold orbs or red orbs, or quit? And I had to keep clicking quit and send me to another menu to restart the level. I just wish the system understood that I don't have enough red orbs to be able to purchase a new life. I don't have any gold orbs to use to give me life. So I should automatically just be dead and just move me directly to that new menu to say, can I retry or something like that? I shouldn't have to say, I quit, go to another menu and restart my mission again. So that's the one thing. The other thing, I wish those orbs transferred over when I said I wanted to retry, basically giving my gold orbs back to retry the mission with my gold orbs. So I did end up having to go do another mission to go get some orbs, some red orbs and gold orbs. It didn't take too long, but it was just frustrating to have to hop to another menu just to retry the game when obviously I couldn't do any of the options that were on the first menu. And it was becoming really frustrating when I was playing this and losing with no orbs, and I needed them to really beat the boss for me personally. And it was really frustrating when I was trying to conquer this boss, and I was frustrated because I kept losing. And then on top of that, I had to go through this stupid menu to like say, no, I lost, please send me to another menu so I can move on and try again. So that was my only huge issue with this game. And then that crash, again, the crash was at the beginning. After that, I had no problems with the game at all in regards to crashing. The frame rate dropped a few times, but it was surprising because in the cutscene, it was not at all during my gameplay. My gameplay was smooth. It was excellent. I really loved it. I think this is the best action game and the best Devil May Cry game yet. If they keep improving other elements of this game, of the franchise in future games, then this game can start being a contender for Game of the Year. Obviously, this probably could be a contender for Best Action Game, but I'm talking about the big one, the big honka, the Game of the Year. Or even put on that list of best games of all time. Because they have all the elements to do so. They have all the basic elements to do it. They just have to now start stepping up certain elements of the game to get there. And to be honest, I'm extremely excited for the next game. Capcom has stepped up their game phenomenally in the last 2 years with Monster Hunter World, Resident Evil 2, even Resident Evil 7 was a showing of stepping up their game, and now Devil May Cry 5. This company has stepped up their game, and I'm just excited to see their continued passion going into their future games. And this is a great welcome back to the franchise. That is my review for Devil May Cry 5. What did you think about the game? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this content, check out the rest I have on Freeze Frame Rate. Go ahead and give it a like, share it with your friends. And if you want to keep up with the content I release each and every week here on the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to do a spoil, if you have finished the game already and want to hear about the spoilers, go ahead and click in the video description below for my spoiler talk. Check it out. We're going to have a blast. There's a lot of things we're going to talk about, a lot of surprises in this game, a few good surprises though that I'm really excited to talk to you about. So my name is Mitch. I'm signing off saying, see you soon.